So awesome. All right, Jen, it's good to have you with us. It's always good to see you.
Yes.
And we'll take a deep breath. So Jennifer's going to talk to us today about parts of her story that she's willing to share with us of her own trauma background, and then some of the people and events that helped her build a thriving life and ways that she stays well. I have to say, Jennifer, you're one of the most fascinating people that I've ever met, because every time I talk to you, I hear about something that you did in another life that I didn't know about. So the last time I was with Jennifer, she's taking pictures of my family talking about running a restaurant, which I did not know you had done. So just ask whatever part of your story you'd like to share with us, beginning at whatever point you'd like to do. I'm just going to turn it over to you and let you introduce yourself and start with that.
Okay. My turn to freak out. So yeah, my name's Jennifer, and right now I work at Daymark as the child and adolescent therapist. Prior to this, I worked at Rutherford Regional Hospital on the behavioral health unit for about 2 years, and one of the more eye-opening experiences that I've been through just in visualizing trauma, because everyone I spoke with, and it was an adult unit, so we're 18 and older, but everyone I spoke with from 18 to the oldest patient I worked with was in her 80s. So 18 to 80, there's that, my life before and my life after. And then if it's maybe compounded trauma, it's like, if it's something that they escaped or got out of, it was my life when I was in it and my life now that I'm out of it. So that was really resonated with me in many ways. And before that, I worked at DSS, and I worked DSS for quite a while. And I worked with children and in CPS and investigations, and saw a lot of hard things. But we also had a lot of celebrations, But I think that's the thing about in working with these families and working with the family, and then being cognizant of what I was raised in my own family, and knowing that what's impossible versus the expectation I can have for this family versus an unrealistic expectation. I remember being about 10 or 11 years old. It was right before I went to the foster care system. And I don't know what I don't know what was being discussed at the time. All I remember is the visual image of, so we lived in this little trailer park, this little, the ones where the trailers lined the hills, but it went up a hill like this on both sides. And we would, it was like a thing that anytime my father got upset or angry, or there was inevitably alcohol involved. But so my visual image at this age is he would always want to clean the trailer. Don't ask me, I don't know. But the outside of the trailer, not the inside, the outside. And so it was like this thing where everybody would have to go outside, and we're getting the water hose out, and it was a white trailer, so you had to like scrub it, and you had to do it right and all this stuff, which would lead to arguments and discussions, because of course you couldn't do it right. And then he didn't need to be on a ladder, let's face it, when he was intoxicated. So there was always that concern too. But I remember standing there thinking, because I was watching my mother and him like go at it. And the words were really irrelevant. It was the body actions and and I remember thinking, whatever this is, I never want to be like this. I never want to live like this. So at the same time, my vision of living a life of freedom was to have my own little trailer somewhere and just be by myself. So when I was young, that's what I wanted. When I get older, I'm just gonna have my own little house and I'm by myself, and it's gonna be a calm, quiet environment. You know.
Can I ask you a question about that, Jennifer?
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting to me, because I wonder where that thought in your head, like, had you been somewhere that you knew what calm quiet was? Because some people live in that and think that that's normal and don't know that there's something else. So did you know that where had you seen that there was something else? Do you know that, or did you just know that wasn't right?
I don't think I had that. I didn't know that just yet.
Be in here for a little while.
I knew that what I did know was that people live differently than that. I didn't know have an expectation that it was going to be some grand experience. But I know what it was like when my father was home and when he's not home. So that's probably the difference. I know what it was like when my father was, because as difficult as he was to deal with, he was also, it didn't, because I remember DSS was involved several times. And, they try the thing where, they have him move out and go to these classes and stuff like that. And that never worked either, because my mother couldn't function if he wasn't there. Even though having him being there caused chaos and arguments and verbal and physical fighting and all these things. It's almost like she was lost without that. So my vision, I guess, was I'm just going to be by myself. Then I don't have to deal with anything like that, and I don't have to deal with anybody. And my happiness isn't dependent upon somebody's mood. I think it's easy to think that as a kid. It's also scary though, because when I did go into the foster care system, I remember my first foster placement was my pastor's house. Now that you think about it, Denise, I probably didn't know a little bit, because I would go to like visit friends with the youth group and stuff. So that I probably had an idea, but I remember being in the little room. So we had this rule, which is very common. What happens here stays here. You don't talk about it. You don't, it's nobody else's business. And that was the thing. You got to uphold your image. You got to, it's like if we just close the windows and the blinds, people won't know what's going on behind the closed door. Well, that's not rational, but that's what we were told. Don't speak about it. So I never did, never said anything. But then there was one incident where my brother was 5, he's 5 years younger than me, so he would have been maybe 5, 6 years old. And he played t-ball. Isn't that a little, where you kind of, okay. Well, I'm not exactly sure how we got my father out to a game or whatever, but he actually came to the game. But my brother didn't hit the ball. He batted out every time. And after that, we were on our way home, and I was like, he was just giving him, grief. Just, I mean, he's a tiny little thing. So doing my sisterly duty, I am standing up for him. I am, well, that followed us all the way home. We got in the house, we did everything. And it ended up me and my father in the bathroom. It was like, a little bathroom in a little trailer home. So it's a smaller bathroom anyway, but I don't remember what I said. I don't remember how I said it, but I said the wrong thing. I do know that because it was like, he was a small man, but when he was angry and alcohol and fueled, he could do things that just seemed, he literally just picked me up and threw me into the bathtub. So, and I hit the faucet thing. So when I hit it, I came out of the wall, and I tore the whole thing out of the wall. So I was in trouble for that, by the way. But it, of course, left a mark, And I would think, I was like, I guess the next day at school, or, as things progressed at school, I was kind of messing with it because it was right on like the lower back. And maybe I said something to a friend about it. I don't know. Maybe I said, probably just, I can't believe he did that. I don't know. But then I get a call. You know about that call, come to the principal's office or go to the guidance counselor's office. And like, I just remember like the heart thump as you're walking there, because you don't know what to expect. And then it was an orange room, all orange, horrible color, by the way, for a room. And they had the camera there and pictures, and this would have been 80s, early 90s. So no, I'm not old. But so one thing sticks with me though, that you're not going to have to go home tonight. That's what they said. And you talk about panic. When you say, I'm not going home tonight, I think I pretty much lost it at that point. And I was like, no, you're wrong. I'm going home like I always go. No, it's, and this kind of reassurance is you're going to be safe, everything's going to be fine. And I wasn't hearing that though. What I was hearing is, now the secret's out, or now somebody is involved and everything is going to be way worse than it ever was before. So yeah, that was probably one of the scary, I think back of all the scary things I've been through, and I just remember that and I said, even then, I said, no, you don't understand. If I don't go home, something bad will happen. If I don't go home, somebody will die. Somebody will get hurt. Somebody will get killed. Somebody bad will happen. Did I feel like that was necessarily going to happen to me? No. I would probably rather it happen to me. Actually, looking back, I can say, yeah, if I could just take it all, I would. But I think the worry was more like, if I'm not there and he's not taking it out on me, who's he taking it out on? So that put my mother, my brother in the crosshairs. So it's kind of like that realization that for all this control that I had tried to in all the ways that I had tried to control and be safe, keep myself safe, I was losing it. It was like slipping. And when I got to my first foster placement, it was somebody I knew, thankfully. But I was in their daughter's bedroom, like their biological daughter's bedroom. And it was an amazing home. It was nice, clean, not huge, but not like dirty and cluttered and cramped. And they had air conditioner, which is amazing. But I laid there, and what struck me was it was too quiet. It was too calm. This is the kind of calm before something really horrible happened, or this was not a good calm. This was a get ready calm. And I didn't really know them that well, so I wasn't going to go say, hey, I'm feeling this way, by the way, feeling kind of really antsy laying here. And then it was like, forgive and forget, move on.
Let me stop you for a second, Jennifer, because I didn't want to rush you through the part about having to go to foster care, but I want to say that I'm sorry that happened to you. And that for people who don't know, that Jen was in CPS at DSS for years. And I've told you this before without knowing that story, that I've done this for 30 years. So how many CPS social workers have I known? I lost count a long time ago. But I had always thought that, and I had told you that you were one of the most intuitive, gentle, straightforward, compassionate social workers that I had ever had the pleasure of working with. And I did not know any of this about you until a month ago. So just wanted to say to you that as painful as I know those things must have been, that the way that you took them and incorporated them to how you are with people is a really beautiful thing to witness. So I'm sorry that happened, but you've done beautiful things with it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Sometimes it's hard to take a compliment, so I'm just going to take it.
Good job. I practiced that myself.
We kind of guard up for that, because it's like, if you're complimenting me, what's coming next? Which is the old way of thinking. What do you expect? Why are you telling me this? And kind of questioning that whole, there's a reason this couldn't be happening just because it's true, or just because it's nice or caring, or because we actually can empathize with each other and be there. No, there's a different reason, and it's sinister. So yeah, in foster care, I armored up a lot. I think Brene Brown uses that saying, so I stole it from her. But once you get past being in one or two placements, I learned different ways to control my surroundings. So I controlled it by being the biggest, most, I was one of those kids. Yeah. So it was like, not going to follow your rules. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I'm not doing anything you asked me to do. I'm not cooperating. I don't want to talk. And it wasn't that I was angry or taking it out on people. It wasn't that. It was more internal than it was external, unless you just kind of pushed and pushed and pushed, and it exploded out of me. And it wasn't like something I would verbalize and say, by the way, this is how I'm going to handle, this is what I'm going to do. It was very quiet. It was something I worked out in me, and it was my, and then they'd get up and I was gone because I'd run away. It was my way of controlling safety. controlling my safety, but also controlling who could hurt me by way of who I allowed to chance, so to speak. So I didn't want to lose any more relationships, or I didn't want to like go through the grief of that loss every time, or the uncertainty. So I dealt with that by saying, okay, well, I'm not going to have to deal with this because I'm just going to get myself out of it. I'm not going to have a chance to connect with anybody. I'm not going to have a chance to form these bonds. Don't have expectations. And so it became about day to day, how to get through the next day.
Someone asked if your brother was also taken into foster care.
He was.
And were y'all together?
Nope, we were not. Well, that night we were not. I didn't know where he was actually. Now that I hadn't really thought about it, but now that I'm thinking back, I didn't know where he was.
That must have been scary.
Because I thought, you got these adults telling you this is what's going to happen. This is what, and so you can fight all day long, but at 10 or 11 years old, there's really no recourse. You can end up doing where they take you, what they tell you. So it was scary because, but I also kind of allowed myself to say, well, wait a minute, to hope, I guess, or to think, there's different, wait, how do you think, how could I be safe? What does that mean, really? What does it mean to be safe? So, which of course, when I had to leave, because DSS works with parents. So when you're like, they worked the system, they did their thing, or I should say he did his thing. Or I thought he did. Turns out he actually didn't, now that I find out, but I thought he did. So so it's like, oh, you're gonna go back. You're gonna go back to living with them. So it was like, wait a minute, you lied to me. You said I was safe. No, I'm not. I'm not safe. If I'd have known this, we would have never been here, because now somebody's got to pay still. That's still there, I didn't just change people. So he was, I would say it was worse. And my brother and I, we did not stay in the same place. And I don't know if it was because they didn't have like the room, or because of the timing and how it worked out. I'm not sure.
So sorry, Jen. So it's like 12:35. One thing I do want us, and so maybe we can come back to this if we need to, because one thing I do want us to talk about is what were the things that were positive for you that came along and helped you rebuild. You wanted the life by yourself in the trailer with the calm. Like what happened to help? And I, looking at your life now, no one would know. I don't think that's your history. So what were the people and things that came along that helped you to create that?
I think number one was the awareness that there's a different way of living. So that happened without me actually kind of knowing, but that happened in those first moments out of there. So that awareness that we could make different choices and live, and that those choices would help us to lead a better life. Number two, there were teachers. For me, it was my ROTC. Well, in middle school, it was the English teacher. And then in high school, it was the ROTC instructor. But They
Which
were
is
there.
fascinating since you didn't like to be told what to do.
No, I didn't. But I really enjoyed ROTC, and I started, I became so involved with it. Like I did Raider Team. I was like the most gung-ho badass ROTC cadet you could be, right? Rambo. Which was productive because I got the ROTC scholarship for when I graduated high school to go into to actually go to ASU after basic training. So I mean, yeah, I hated being told what to do, but I did like the rigidity and the structure of knowing what's coming. So I guess there's that. I would say it really was only one or two people that showed me that there was a better way, different choices that didn't. But I wouldn't say that just because I didn't lead that life, that a lot of things I chose to just avoid. Even as I got older, I avoided it, and I didn't deal with it. And
Hold on, I think either I exit, you're muted. Can you unmute yourself?
you hear me?
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I don't know what happened. So you just chose to avoid things you said, and then what did you say after that? That there was only one or two people that
There was only
really.
one or two people that I remember making the difference. And one of them was Sergeant Major Reed, and he was the type of person that if you didn't show up, like even when I got, sophomore, junior, senior, those years, if I didn't show up, he would actually show up at my house. And my senior year, I actually, they couldn't keep me anywhere because I kept running away. So I finally talked to them and let me go back and stay with my grandfather. Under the guise that I was going to take care of my grandmother because she was terminally ill, but she didn't make it, she didn't make it out of the hospital. So when I got there, it was just me and grandfather. But he would be like, that man's out here again, just yelling through the house. But literally it was, no, you get your booty down here, get in the car, you're going to school.
So the power of the relationship outweighed your loathing of being told what to do.
I think so, but just having somebody show up at your house, I mean, what? Hey, I noticed you weren't at school today. Get in here. So noticing, number one, that I wasn't there was powerful, I think. Number two, you notice and you do something about it. You care. What? So it was like, you're going to drive. And we lived like all the way up 181 towards Pea Ridge and Zion. That's where my grandfather lived, Zion Baptist up at Pea Ridge in Morganton. So the high school was a good 25 minutes, I would say, from that house. So it wasn't just a hop in the car, go across the road, So it took some real, he taught me how to drive. He taught me how to ski. He taught me how to, of course, with all the military stuff, set goals, I think.
Are you still in touch with him?
Yeah, I saw him just the other, it's probably been 6 months or so ago now, but yeah, I still stop by every now and then and, say, hey, I honk the horn every time I go by his house. So he knows, so, and I'm not the only student that he was there, he was there for through everything, even when they're saying this child is not reachable, this child is not gonna be able to, this is a lost cause pretty much. without those words. So
one of the things that we talk about sometimes on here is, that you're partially talking to people from trauma to say, you're not alone, but you're also talking to people who may not have trauma to say, this is what I needed when this was happening to me. And so just so hearing the way that you're talking about this, and I'm thinking about what people can take from it. And so what you said about just the noticing and then actually doing something about it is pretty powerful. So I just wanted to point that out to you.
Time to even say it, to even speak it out loud, that it's, wait a minute, I'm so important that you're going to stop what you're doing, even though you're employed at this school and you're a teacher and this is the responsibilities you have, but you're going to stop what you're doing. Number one, you're going to notice after, I don't even know how in attendance that I'm not there. And then you're going to stop what you're doing and you're going to get in your car and drive 30 minutes. And why are you doing this? But it was always unstated. It was like, I'm not doing this for any certain reason. But it was the expectation that I believe in you and you will be successful. And it was that expectation that was kind of the driving force. Nothing that was set in stone. We didn't have any written goals or anything, but it was just, I knew that's what he expected, which was excellence. And so I sought to be the most badass ROTC. I remember the first time I had to talk in front of a group, I had to talk in front of the whole company. And I said, I'm not doing that. He said, yes, you are. I was like, no, I'm not. Yes, you are. So, but he was matter of fact like that.
That's another thing we've talked about is having somebody believe in you when you don't yet believe in yourself and how powerful that can be.
It really makes the difference because until you believe in yourself, you're not gonna put forth the effort, I guess, to make these things happen on your own.
Well, and I don't even, just speaking for myself, I don't even think that you know what's possible. Kelly Reed Ashcraft's on this call, and this is always the one that I use for me. Every time I saw her for 10 years or more, she said, when are you getting your master's? And honestly, it wasn't a thought. I didn't even believe that was possible for me. Like I barely got through school.
Sorry.
And so the idea that was even like, until she continually put that into my consciousness, it wasn't even an idea that was a possibility for me. It wasn't something to strive for because I didn't even think it was within reach. So the power of somebody believing in you to show you what's possible for you that you might not even comprehend even exists, it's very powerful.
Yeah, and to have somebody to say it, to, not just somebody that is actually doing what they preaching what they do, or no, doing what they preach, rather.
Yeah. Speaking it into existence. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we could probably spend a whole month of Wednesdays together, you and me, because I've known you so long and I'm learning so many things. But one thing I want to be sure and cover, because we talked about that this can be a struggle for you, is staying well. Mm-hmm. And taking care of yourself and letting other people help you take care of yourself, which is another thing we talk about, community care and relational care. So we've got about 10 minutes or so. If we could talk a little bit about the things that you've developed that help you maintain wellness and those types of things.
So I think, number one, let me say that's a struggle across the board because I could tell someone how to do things all day long, but when it comes to doing it for me, why? No, it's like you have to think extra hard about it. I probably in 2010, I started therapy, like therapy that I wanted to be at, therapy. And I kind of came to know what a relationship is like to have a therapist, number one, but to have a therapist who, you know, my therapist didn't change, so I didn't have to deal with that. It was consistent and it was every week. And it was that building that trust, to know that not everyone's against you, you know, not everyone is, we're
A
not
threat.
allowed to hurt each other. Yeah.
And not everyone's a threat.
Not everyone is a threat. Which is kind of how I saw the world, even when I wasn't looking to see the world that way. That was the lens I looked through. So, so getting started in therapy, and then in 2017, well, I had been all my life, I kind of dealt with the eating, controlling things through food and stuff. So, you know, that really took hold after, I don't know, some things that happened with work that I guess triggered like old, because I would go through phases. So I'd be doing really well, then not doing well, then doing well, then not doing well. But it wasn't really something I went to somebody about. It was just, pick back up and go. But I wasn't able to shake this. And it took Beth, y'all know Beth, she was a fellow social worker, and then the captain of the police department, who was a friend, I wasn't arrested or anything, but they literally took me to a treatment center and took my car. They dropped me off, and I was like, oh no. I mean, for me, it was like an instance to be back in foster care, because I was like, I'm a trash bag, where's the trash bag, you know? But having to face it that way too, but knowing that it's not something that just, I mean, it's literally a lifetime of, there are different and I'm sure there will be other walls and hurdles and things that come along. But the more I learn, number one, which is why I'm a lifelong learner, and number two, I stay curious about people. I try not to make snap judgments, even if I know I'm making a snap judgment. Think out of that, don't question it, right? That open curiosity. But the more I help, the more I try and help others, the more I'm preaching to myself as I'm talking. Like, I'm giving out this advice and I'm reminding myself the advice too. And for a while, I was ashamed to say that. I was ashamed to say, yeah, I had these problems, you know, mental health's been a struggle, but how could it not be? I mean, how could it not be a struggle? So grace, giving yourself grace.
I was talking to my therapist the other day, and I was talking about something that had happened recently that was a really massive trigger for me, and just, you know, skin crawling, feeling the need to run and abandon my life. I think you and I were talking about thinking in an instant that everything we've built is going to be gone. You know, that's that constant underlying hum under my skin, is that, you know, one wrong move. And I was talking to her about it and how I expected better of myself, and that I didn't want to be that person who reacted like that. And like, what was that? That's not a 52-year-old professional social worker. Like, what was that? Mm-hmm. And she said, that is the reaction of a person who has an ACE score that's a 9 out of 10. Like, that is standard for a person who has that history. And I don't like that. So I'm saying this to you right now. I don't like that. Like, it's not who I want to be. But, and I've told people I feel that part of my brain that's well and healing, making good decisions for me most of the time. And then something like that will happen. I'll be like, it's all still right there. I mean, it is as close as right there. And it's just, it can be really frustrating and disappointing. So I completely get what you're saying, that you want or at least I want to be this person that I imagine a normal person is. And just that daily battle of fighting the way you think and act and react and those
Like,
instantaneous.
Don't step over the ledge. Just walk the tightrope, ledge, tightrope, whatever, y'all know what I'm trying to say, but you're just walking that.
That's hard. That's hard.
But also accepting yourself too, because there are things that will never change about me that everybody laughs about sometimes. But it's like, I still hate rules. I hate them. Unless you give me a good reason to do it, I don't want to do it. So I'll be, like working out the time thing, like having to be timely and stuff. Well, we just didn't show up to things. That's how we grew up. So we would say we're going to be there all day long, but nobody actually, okay, yeah, whatever, so it's like, or we would get ready to go. And then all of a sudden it's like, we're not doing this. I'm angry, mad. So it would just shut down. So it's almost like I have to wait till the very end to know if something is really going to happen or not. Should I be excited or should I dare to hope, and those feelings don't kind of leave you. They're always right there, just, and they're automatic thoughts too, actually. Last thing I'll say is for a long time, home was the word home. Like, I hated to be at home. So they said, you got to go home or you got to go, or you're not going home. Anything to do with that word just put this sense of dread over me. And that lasted well into probably my early 30s. No, I won't say that long. Early 20s, 25, 26, late 20s, whatever. But it was like, if I got to go home after work, it's still the thought of going home. And then, oh yeah, I don't live there anymore. Oh yeah, that's not my home. So put in different context and meaning with the word, apart from what I knew, what was my reality. But then the struggle to remember that.
To walk yourself through that every time. I actually hadn't thought about that before because I have that same gut reaction, and it has nothing to do with my home now. That's been a really peaceful, safe place for 30 years. So I've never thought about where that instinctive dread comes from. So that's very interesting. I'm gonna have to think about that a while. We've got like 3 minutes. So if anybody has any comments or if it has a question for Jennifer, you're welcome to type that in the chat. If you've had anything that you would like to say to her, I'll copy and paste it and email it to her so she can read it later. As we're winding down, anything, Jen, that you would like to say that I haven't thought to ask you about either, somebody, I just keep thinking back to you being little and what people could have done to let you know that you weren't alone. And so anything, that you'd like to add that I haven't thought to ask you about?
I think I think I knew my situation best. So you coming in there like gung ho and saying, no, you're not gonna have to go home. You're not gonna have to deal with that anymore. Number one, if you don't know, it's that you don't know the future. We would love to be able to tell everybody's future, but making promises or making statements that are like certainties can really cause more damage in the long run, because then people stop trusting. They stop, wait a minute, you told me this wasn't going to happen. You told me we were going to have to do this, especially for a child. You told me I wasn't going home or I wouldn't have to face this again. But now what? You're telling me I have to go home? No. So I think being very astute as to what and the way you are talking to someone, especially a child who is dealing with trauma and or maybe in a situation, don't say things that you don't, there's no way you could know. Even if your intention is good, we're used to hearing that. So we need to know the truth, we need to know what's real. We can handle it. We've been through a lot more. We can handle it. We're not broken individuals. We actually very hardened street fighters. No,
A little bit of both, probably.
like,
Well, thank you so much for spending time with me. It's almost 12:59. I know you probably either have a client or need to eat lunch. And so it's always a pleasure and a joy to spend time with you and learn more about you. Thank you for sharing parts of yourself with us and helping us to understand better about these experiences and how they impact us long term. It's great to see you. I
yeah.
hope you have a good rest of the day. Tell your family I said hey.
All right, I will. Bye.
Bye.
Everyone. Thank you.